All right. So I'm back, and even though no one watches this, I still wanted to talk about the dreaded E word. What is the dreaded E word? The E word is euthanasia, and so there's been a huge problem with the rise in assisted dying. Now, when I was growing up, I was pretty much all for this because I was like, "Oh, that's a good thing. It's giving people more choice over how they want to live and die, right?" But uh, how I felt when I was younger versus how I feel now are totally different. I still want people to have that choice, but it's not just expanded access, for example, which is driving um, why people are getting more euthanized, right? There's a lot of factors. A lot of it has to do with age, chronic illness, um, poverty, pain related or associated illnesses, um, in again situations where I don't necessarily agree, but like psychiatric ones or neuropsychiatric conditions, and also just public attitude about it has changed over the last 20 years or so. Um, and so countries like Belgium, Switzerland, the Netherlands, parts of the United States, etc. I think parts of Australia have it available, right? Um, and there are like surveys that will show that like the majorities now favor legal euthanasia or assisted dying, right? And so while that is all like well and good, that would all be really great in a society where um, the the state didn't have control over this, because the state is the one kind of promoting it, especially like I forgot to mention Canada, right? Canada is in the Netherlands are probably like the two worst culprits of this. Um, the reason why I bring this up is because I just came across another person who chose the euthanasia route. Um, I believe they were like 25 or 26. Out of respect, I won't put up who they were, but it's something that worries me. Worries me greatly. Worries me for people that I know who are sick. Worries me about myself. Even like even not just if I were sick, but what if I I came so poor I was like, well, I'm a burden to society or something. Like what is this like reinforcing, right? That people should just like off themselves. You know, there was a show called Futurama where there was something called like a suicide booth where you would just go in and it would just kill you, and that's what it reminds me of. Like, could you guys take your you take the trash out and then take yourself out with it, if you wouldn't mind, you know. Um, and so like just to give you an idea, like so 5.4% of all deaths in the Netherlands are from assisted suicide or euthanasia. So that's only like 10,000 people. But if you applied that same percentile to the United States, it would be something like 180,000 people, which is the size of like Worcester, Mass, which I'm from Massachusetts. Like that's about, and Worcester, Mass is the second largest city in New England of all in fucking New England. That's how, so an entire city of that population size would just disappear every year. That's that's not insignificant, right? And the fact that it's even 5% in the Netherlands to me is absurd, right? And I get people want to have death with dignity, and I get that people want to have control and they don't want to have a bad death, and they don't want to lose their sense of self, or they don't want to get to a point where they don't have any more independence or they don't have a say in the matter as well. Of course, you want to be protected from that. That stuff, all the good stuff about it should remain. But what's the scariest part about it for me, when it comes to like end of life care, is that it is still ultimately in the hands of the most violent institutions, and the institutions that are protecting the the other establishments that typically have pushed people into the more violent institutions. So, for example, like in the Netherlands or in Canada, for example, the reason why people choose assisted suicide or euthanasia is because uh, they don't have any social support anywhere else, right? So, like, if you have a chronic health condition, for example, you're more likely to be uh, poor and live in poverty, right? And there's just nothing there for you. And then the medical establishment at the same time is going to designate you sort of either some sort of like layabout or something along those lines. You won't be able to qualify for any of the state assistance, anyways. And then they tell you, well, you don't qualify for any of the state assistance. So, but here's the state assistance that you do qualify for. And it's similar in the same vein of like, we don't actually have any curatives for you other than this. And that's pretty fucked up when the only cure for poverty is kill yourself. The only cure for your illness or uh, any sort of amelioration for your illness is kill yourself, right? That's a problem. And it's a problem that is deeper than just these are rotten institutions and we need to change everything, right? I believe that fundamentally, right, that this is the end result, the terminal phase of a system that is run and predominantly um, shaped by uh, capital in extremis, right? Which is saying that human needs are over here and the needs of capital is over here, and they're never going to if they do cross, it's incidental. But for the most part, these needs are going to be hostile to these needs, right? And in order for this to live, many of this has to die, and wants it to die, right? Not all of it, but just the things the part the people or the human beings and the human life and the human potentialities and all the other shit that it doesn't consider essential for its main drive, which is to produce value and to produce profit, right? And the state is an accomplice in this, of course, right? So I think that it's not some abstract thing that we can just sort of like forget in the back of our minds, because it affects people that we know. It could be us that are next. It could be you could lose. I mean, with AI coming, people could lose their jobs all of a sudden, and then what do they do? Who do they turn to? You know, and of course, it impacts the MECFS community and the long COVID community greatly, right? Because they're caught now between a medical establishment that wants nothing to do with them, and then they're also caught between a government which they can't really appeal to, as it has historically ignored them and is prioritizing other things right now. And they're considered a cost, right? Which is again another problem with the society we live in. Everyone is considered a cost, right? And if you're not out there producing, then you are considered a drain on society, right? So the sick and poor people should not have to turn to euthanasia because the system does not just abandon it to them; it's outright warfare, open warfare on them. Um, and so, like, you would think my argument would be like, well, we need better social support. It's like, no, we need to have a socialization of everything. It's not just about like, well, we need to fund this or fund that, or we need strong palliative care and supportive care and economic security, et cetera, and so forth. Like that is a very old, outdated idea. We need the direct socialization of all life where we can't have this relative form of wealth over here called production for profit in antagonism to the absolute form of wealth, which is to how we reproduce society and our needs, right? And this is dominant over this. That doesn't make any sense. And so that's all I really wanted to say about that. It is something that bothers me because it is a pure distillation of just how cold and calculated everything has become, where people feel that this is their only exit, this is their only out, right? It is it is the part and parcel with the enormous defeat that we all suffered in the 20th century, and leading into the 21st century, right? Where we all, everyone thought, oh, we're going to have a better future, and technology is going to make everything better for everyone, and we're going to have uh, abundance everywhere, and society is become more. It's going to becoming freer, and it's going to become somehow more coherent and rational. And it did, but only in the very narrowest of senses. It became more rational towards a logic, which became totally antithetical to the needs of human, and in fact outright anti-human. Now, I remember I'm a communist, so like, of course that's going to be my position. But yeah, that's all I really have to say. Fuck the government, fuck the state.